So, hello everybody, welcome here to this live stream of Sunday, 2nd of July 2017. In case you're new here, my name is Wim Winters and Authentic Sound is the name of my channel where I play, perform, study, research the music from Bach to Beethoven and where the word discover is leading me, hopefully, to discover and to find or to take a new perspective on emotions, because that's what it is about in playing music and even when you research music, and hopefully inspiring you with that. Tonight we're having a live stream that's a little bit different from regular ones. Just started with a new 2-month project on Bach World Temperament Clavier 1 to 8, and tonight we're going to record the first iconic Prelude and Fugue. So that's the first thing we're going to do, combining that with a so-called Masterclass, which normally is separated from the recording sessions. But as we having in these 2 months, every Tuesday, a Prelude and Fugue of Bach, I had to figure out something for the first one, because the release of this recording that we're going to make tonight is planned for Tuesday the 4th of July, so within 2 days. So that's the reason why I had to combine that. So typically in the masterclass I'm responding to all the chats, and in the recordings I shut down the chats, of course, for matter of concentration. But Anja is in the kitchen next to the studio, because we're going to record it analog even for YouTube, and she will be in the chat with you. If you have something to ask about this first Prelude and Fugue, don't hesitate to do that now in the chat. I will be catching up later so in 10-15 minutes. I don't think it will take very long to record this piece, although it's a very difficult one. Certainly the Prelude and the Fugue is actually also hitting the effect, but that's for in 20 minutes. Then we're going through those questions with you, and I'm looking forward to that. Well, while I'm playing different takes, as always, leave your preferred one in the chat. I'm reading that, even if I cannot address it during the live stream. Anja is copying always this chat and sending it in a Word file to Dropbox, so we can check it later, and it's always helpful for me to read your comments there. So you'll see I don't have even an electronic device. I'm always fighting with that here because I want to concentrate on this Prelude, certainly because that's a really difficult one to hit right, and I will explain in a minute, 15 minutes why. So I might do it several times just to make sure it is okay. Hopefully it will reach the level that I want. Again, it's a really difficult one, so I decided not to fight with my cell phone and just jump into the recording. That's the reason why I cannot address you and welcome you by name. So I'm sorry for that. Catch up later with you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the cameras on with 2 cameras now, change the setup a little bit. The main camera is still over there, giving the main view. I can show it to you here a little bit. So there are, in these times, these cameras are all Wi-Fi controlled. So in fact, that's the first. I don't know if you see it because I don't have a visual checkup of the webcam. That's the normal view. So this one is running, and the other one is a little bit darker. My beautiful cell phone, which need to be replaced, is giving, actually it's the cameras here giving a view for the keys, because the Kramer etudes, you might have seen it, I bundled them, and of course there we had 2 angles from low from my hand position, and actually quite a few people asked to do that again, and the World Temperament Clavier, I believe that's a perfect project to do that. So we see how we're going to edit all of that. So without further ado, I'm going to abandon you for 15 or 20 minutes and record the first Prelude and Fugue of Bach, the BWV 846 if I'm not mistaken. So there we go. If Anja's ready, then I have to be ready. Waiting for the signal.
Okay.
kind of noise outside. Kind of airplane. I have to check. Can we have power? Difficult to see. Just continue. Just continue. It's over. just leaving for the video and coming back in 5 seconds. So we're ready, Anja?
Okay.
At least with part 1. What I'm going to do now is shut down the cameras one by one, and then I will have my tablet to access the live stream and your chat. Maybe that's even possible with this one. So that's the other camera, shutting down this one and coming for the webcam to shut down the other one. Okay, and now let's see my weekly fight with these devices. If I can access the live stream, probably yes, hopefully. And then we start with the mini masterclass. It's only this Prelude and Fugue that we're going to talk about. And if we're not covering everything, there is another one in 2 weeks with the second, third, and maybe fourth even. I don't know yet. I believe on Thursday, so that's the 6th one, we'll be recording number 2 and 3 in a regular recording session. So now I'm clicking here and should get access to, there it is. Yeah. Fine, all in black. Summer look. This, of course, Anja's idea. So I'm going to check if I missed something, and Anja will give me a notice as well. Say hello to you first. AJ, the creator, I don't know, AGG, the creator, welcome. Robin, welcome to see you here. Always nice. Katsuhiro Takino from Brazil, welcome again. Andre Campana Meritica, hope I pronounced that right. Great to have you. Carlos from Mexico. Katsuhiro writes Bach is the father of classical music. That's, yeah, Bach is everything you can name him, I believe. It's a name. Mike, thanks for doing Bach, Wim. You're welcome. I was waiting for a long time to do the Walter and Peter Clavier, and I will tell you why I was waiting so long. V. Elliot, both books, we're starting with book 1. So these 2 months project, Prelude and Fugue number 1 to 8, and there will be 2 other such sessions. And then we have 24 for book 1, and then I'm going to re-record everything on analog tape again, but then on tape is now running at 7.5 inch speed, so then we will upgrade to 15, which is really the standard for recordings, and then we do the same project as with the partitas now, but that will be for next year somewhere. Karel, great to have you here. Melanis Marcus, thank you. These 30-second notes, I believe you mentioning or not, we talk about that in a second. Next week, Karel asked, there will be the 847. Yes, so number 2 and 3 are being recorded on Thursday, 6th one. So, as I said, Otto Garcia, great to have you here. Martin Eslava from Arizona. Okay, it's Sunday, so I guess it's no lunchtime. I believe it's you all are checks in regularly in your lunchtime. So now I'm losing my connection. Never happened, of course, but it happens, of course, in a live stream. Okay, there it's again. Sophia's on the live stream. That's my daughter. Both are actually looking to the live stream. Evelyn as well. So Evelyn wanted to stay up for the live stream because she's 5. She's turning 6 in October. And now it's holidays, school holidays here in Belgium. So today she said, I want to stay up. It's 9:30. It's rather late for her, but of course the schedule changes, sleeping and getting up in the morning. So Anya and I looked to each other. We said, "You're sure? Because you have to be very quiet then." And she said, "I can't be quiet, so I better go upstairs." And so they're now upstairs. Luca, great to have you. Javier Hernandez Medeiros, the immortal Bach from Spain. And then we come here to the greetings from Ukraine. And I wish I could pronounce your name. You should once leave in the chat or in the regular video in a comment how I pronounced your name, and I will learn it. John, great to have you here. Fantastic. Andre Marquez as well. Okay, there we go. So if you still have some time, it's 10 o'clock, I just go through some of the aspects of this immensely difficult prelude and fugue. Fugue is okay, but the prelude is really difficult. And explain you in a second why I think it is. If you have questions, I will put the tablet here. Put them in the chat. Anya is again yelling at me if I miss something, because if I'm talking, it's difficult to look at the chat and talking at the same time. So there we go.
There is one question.
There she is already. So the voice you're hearing is from my wife.
There's one question. Measure 11 to 14. So
Bar in the prelude, in the fugue. Yeah, you asked that in one of the videos. In the fugue. And okay, she's away. Would be handy if you would say with what question it was. But we going. I check. Anya.
yeah.
What was the question actually? I found 300 messages to read.
It's very difficult. So
Okay.
in the prelude.
Okay, that's yeah. There are very difficult passages in the fugue. Let's start with that one then. So bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I guess you're talking about the fact that two voices are really crossing in each other. So and that's something that's difficult in a way. If you would sing this piece with 4 voices, of course it would be much easier, or a string quartet, to have the voices come out more easily. On the clavichord, of course, you have the benefit of the sound, of the dynamic range, of the dynamic possibilities, so to say, which you don't have at the same level and on a harpsichord, obviously. But in any way, you can work with timing, and just giving the beginning of the theme is actually the only thing you can do, and try to articulate and have every theme as much as possible phrased and articulated in the same way. So, but if you have a stretto like this, and you're talking about this, so you have theme entrance in the bass, then in the alto voice, there's the soprano and the alto come together, going over the soprano even. In the left hand you have to, so try to be as independent as possible. And then the B is also a shared note. So what helps then is giving an accent, which you can do on piano or clavichord, because if I'll show you. It's going dee-dum-bum. And the difficulty here also is because the soprano voice, which has no theme there, is just going under the alto voice, and then the alto voice again is going under the soprano voice. But holding the B here, which is the part of the theme used by the soprano as well, and accentuating that gives you this line as a listener, should give you the line. But it's really complicated there. Technically I think it's okay. More difficult here is this bar. And I take that, I make a kind of arpeggio for the syncopation, so syncopated note. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. I will check in the chat if I have missed something. Just very briefly on the prelude, and then we go to the fugue. So this is a very strange piece because you could say there's not so much going on here. I mean, for being a Bach piece, this is remarkably sober. And sometimes, honestly, it feels as if Bach, he wanted to have 24 pieces. That's obvious because he reused some of his old works, changed it into other keys even, and it sometimes feels, well, as I have to have a prelude for the first one, what I'm going to do, and just write out kind of improvisation. And the difficulty in that is, and the second thing is, if you play that piece, it has always something magical, and partly, of course, it's so iconic that you cannot escape from having that feeling. But there is also something in this piece that is really kind of hypnotizing effect, and to reach that, which is essential, I think that's very difficult. Depending on the instrument which you play, if you play on the piano, you have a little bit more, but of course it's not meant, you can play it on the piano, but Bach didn't have the piano in mind, not in that time. But playing on the modern piano, you have a little bit more the power of suggestion, because you can work a little bit in an impressionistic way, a little bit more. On a harpsichord, I think that's the most difficult instrument to play this piece on, because you have to find a way to give these impulses. And on the clavichord, the difficulty there is the sound. The easier part on a harpsichord is that if you play an arpeggio, you will have more easily, because the notes are longer, this one sound cloud, one combined sound, which you have to try to find also on the clavichord. With the shorter tone on the clavichord, that's more difficult. The easier part is that on the clavichord you can bring voices, you can emphasize certain voices, certain connections that make the music rhythmically more dynamic, perhaps. And I've played this already on my channel. It was one of the first things I uploaded, and I don't remember how I did it then, but if I remember a little bit of it, that I played it rather rhythmically in the right hand. And I honestly, well, it was a decision. Not saying that I didn't like it or I don't like that, it's just a decision. And that's typical with the world temperature clavier. I'm going now through the whole first book. But as with the partitas, I will be happy to re-record it, because there are so many choices that you can make. Not only tempo-wise, that's of course the foundation of everything you do, because if you change your movement, you change everything. The whole building becomes a new one. But on top of that, what are you going to do with articulation, with phrasing, and this kind of pieces you can play in many ways. What I've chosen to do now is to make the connection between the first note of the arpeggio effect on the right hand and the upper note. So filling in. But on clavichord this is really difficult, because you have to give impulse, an accent on the G, and then very quietly on the C, but then again the accent on the E. You have this, but the accent on the E should be a little bit less than the accent on the G, because it's a little bit this counter accent that I wanted to have. And what I like about that is it gives such a kind of counter accent, but also counter rhythmical pulse against, if you would play it just from the first quarter note, it would sound like that. It's already different than on the recording. And then once you reach that, so you have yum, then how the left hand is going to fit in, that's difficult as well, because by the time you end here, they're still sounding but very soft. They get a new accent then. But how loud that should be, that to not disturb the atmosphere, it's a weird piece in that sense, because it has a kind of effect that's difficult to grab, or that you should create or recreate or co-create, so to say, with the sound production. Like a fugue, you bring out the voices. Also in other preludes you bring out the voices, you have a clear accent, a clear movement in mind, and that's it. But here the sound is working with the piece to make the imagination, the suggestion. And then the left hand is difficult to fill in all those and give the rhythmical impulses again. I know I'm rambling now really a lot, and I hope it still is clear, but that's the complexity of it. So this piece seems to be easy, but it's for me one of the most difficult ones. So if you continue then, if you once find this movement, this circular movement, you accent here is bigger. Pom pom pom. Again, pom pom. Of course, it's an octave. Okay. The crescendo action here. Solution, relaxation, tension. The C sharp is really leading to a new A flat. So all these accents that you give in between should fit in the sound you're making. So if you choose to give an accent more than normal, like on the A flat, you may have to make sure that it has a solution on its own, but the right hand is continue. Of course it goes to the G. Tension. Tension. Almost solution. And there's a solution. Always with the same movement. G flat. Of course. Leading to a new climax. End of the piece. Surprise now. And now a real ending. But then that's okay. And then Bach is getting you completely out of this sound cloud that you've been creating so nicely by just giving kind of that's also how to deal with that. So I did it like this. I gave an accent on the first C, making the second C shorter, and then the third C again longer, so that you have so you get this. So yeah.
There's one question of Alexi. On the prelude, 5 notes in each bar are connected, but the rest 3 are detached. I haven't heard this before.
Well, I'm doing a lot of things that some people have not heard, so it's going so fast. Oh, here's the name of my Ukrainian friend, Alexi. Okay, I will not forget that. And so you've asked that question about the 5 notes out. Wait. I will have the tablet next to me because I'm missing too much now. Yeah, 5 notes in each bar are connected, but the rest 3 are detached. I haven't heard this before. Yeah, but that's a choice. So it's kind of over legato, which is not very unnatural to do, of course. And you can choose to make 6 of them. It works also great. But it becomes another piece, and that's what I meant to say, that just making a choice gives you a different piece, and that is what makes this first iconic one so difficult, except from the fact that of course everybody knows the piece and is waiting for your performance and your take on that, which is of course a great thing, but it adds up to that. It's not just a normal prelude. So yeah, you can have. You even could say that I play 4 notes over legato, make the 2 notes a little bit more. So I choose again to close this prelude with the tom pom tom pom. Do you see the hand also over an octave? This E on the clavier now is really difficult. On a harpsichord you will not miss that E, but on the clavichord easily. I'll show you. Yeah, for me it's difficult to miss it now, but it's difficult, that E, trust me. Okay.
Is it more difficult, they ask, on a clavichord or on a harpsichord?
Yeah, because on a harpsichord you don't have the choice of making all these nuances in sound. You have to work with timings and with in that respect it's more difficult on a harpsichord, because you don't. Sometimes people say, I believe it was Gustav Leonard who said it's much more, the harpsichord is much more difficult than the clavichord. That was a kind of a statement he did just to go in against some of the common ground, so to say. It's of course not what he meant. On a harpsichord you have less dynamic possibilities, so in order to make the music in the same way and dynamic than on a clavichord, you have to do different things. Of course that leads to the question for which type of instrument Bach was composing. Yeah, that's something that we will never solve, but the clavichord was very present there. So you have possibilities on the clavichord that you can use, you will not have on the harpsichord, but on the other hand you have to manage those possibilities as well. Here in this arpeggio-like music, like going over an octave, you really have to reposition in your hand, because you cannot go. You have really to press key on the front of the key and not going in between the white notes here. And then you have the sound. Once you have set in a sound, you have to keep that in all layers. Certainly in a piece like that. Of course, on the harpsichord, the instrument is doing that for you. So I would say technically this is way more demanding on the clavichord. We're going to make some videos on the World Temperament Clavier as well, because there is kind of mystification around that, what it was about. And in very short, in history, of course, today in the hip movement, from, if you say from the 60s, 70s onwards, and maybe even with Landowska in the early 20th century, the World Temperament Clavier was a kind of holy bundle of music, which it is, but to show the differences with later music and the way that pianists were playing this. So the emphasis actually for the World Temperament Clavier became on the tuning and the temperament, which is something you will not find in historical sources. It's something we created. The difference of the thirds, we created a kind of emotional effect to that. And I know that you have sources, always mix Mattheson and Marburg. I think it's Mattheson talking about in Kirchentonarten, so the few ones that you want that he has different characters connected to, but it's not connected that to thirds. And in any case, in any source you will read, you will find the wish of those people of those time to have the instrument properly tuned for the keys you're playing in. And in the Wohltemperierter Clavier means that and if you want to play in 24 keys, that's abundantly clear actually. Then you have to tune the instrument in a Wohltemperierter way, which is explained in fact by Werkmeister as a source that very few will know. If you say to me, what temperament is my instrument now? Well, that's something it's hard to answer, because the temperament is of course a technical, it's a theoretical thing, and in practice it's even impossible to have a theoretical tuning perfectly in an instrument. And I think if you have an harpsichord or a clavichord and you tune it yourself, you will know that you adjust all the time. But Werkmeister, if we talk about him, we talk about his late 17th century temperaments, which divide the difference in 4/5. And typically what people will do, good tuners, they will stretch a little bit the rest, so coming very close to equal temperament. But actually Wohltemperierter Clavier, the term Wohltemperierter is the latest temperament by Werkmeister. It's published posthum in 1707, and that's the Wohltemperierter Stimmung. Neidhart would call that, I think 1 year later, gleichschwebend. And that's something that always is, we like in the hip movement mysterious things, but things are seldomly very mysterious. And so equal temperament is something that you cannot escape from having. But if you tune according to Werkmeister 1707, and that's my point, few people will know that temperament even after 60 or 70 years of hip movement. That's strange. Then you don't have a piano tuning. It's still different. We're going to talk about that. So the differences in thirds, and Immanuel Bach is writing about that as well. If you want to play in 24 keys, you will have to make sure that the thirds are perfectly Wohltemperierter, which means all equal. And the core issue of playing in 24 keys was of course not learning the effect of a tonality. That's what we created. The core aspect was the same as we still would have in the 19th century, to learn technically to play in 24 keys. It's actually very simple, I believe. Controversial, people say, and I don't like the word provocative and controversial just by sharing ideas. But that's again for another video. I check your chat, and just a few words on the fugue. I'm playing it now, I think, slower than I did in my first version. And the thing that's strange, because I was thinking a lot, I'm talking a lot about notation and the influence and the way composers Bach to Beethoven, actually it's still the same, used the notation in a way to indicate a certain tempo, and you should turn it around. Of course they had first music in their mind, and they were finding a kind of right notation that would fit into that what they were hearing. And of course you have margins, that's I'm not talking about. I was playing this fugue really in quarter notes, like, and for some reason I still remember that in making the first recording, I think it's 3 years ago, I was struggling with the 30-second note, because it's so out of effect of this fugue. And it's difficult to soften them, to make them more sweet, you know what I mean? And just preparing, and that's, I'm very honest now how it worked. And the reason that I played it in quarter notes is, if you look to the score, you could say, well, it's just an ordinary mesure ordinaire, it's a tempo ordinario, which means, around 60 for a slower version. And if, of course, Bach is seldomly, if ever, he does it, but not principally adding Italian tempo words. So if the character is more lively, you go a little bit faster. not so fast that you come in the range of the alla breve tempo, of course not. And so I was thinking, this is a 4/4 normal bar structure in 4/4, so I played it, and I felt always a little bit frustrated about this fugue. And then preparing the video series, I'm going to make 2 or 3 of them. So from Bach to Beethoven, we have of course a Czerny edition, which adds a lot to the edition, even some bars, but also Italian tempo words. And that's interesting, and connect that with the metronome number. And of course, some of these fugues, if you look on, if you should try them out, some of these are becoming very slow. And I was struck by his metronome number here. I don't even know what it is. It was something, I hear this, 116 for the 8th note, which would mean for the 16th note then metrically. So you have dum, dum. Which is actually much slower than I did. And he is shifting then from a quarter note interpretation to an 8th note interpretation. And once I realized that, I thought back on what we have covered here so much, and I was really stupid not to see that before. We've covered so much the 2/4 bar structure, time signatures in Bach, and Bach not so much. But in Beethoven, Mozart, later music, Haydn, rondos, which is actually a 4/8. And there are several sources talking about that. But why not having the same possibility in the 4/4 bar structure? And of course, if you read sources, and I don't have read them all, I can say that to you, and if I did, I would have forgotten half of it. But I think you won't find many sources, if any, that talk about shifting a 4/4, so common time, to actually an 8/8 bar structure like we did with the 2/4 to 4/8. But what you do find often is that if the harmony get denser and more tight, and the note value gets structurally over a 16th, which is or faster, they don't talk about the 16, but that's the normal limit for the tempo ordinario common time, then the tempo gets slower. And if all of that combined is working together, it can get so much slower that you don't feel the pulse anymore in quarters, but in 8 notes. That's of course debatable, but because you can say, if I play my tempo, that you feel a very slow quarter pulse. Or you tom, tom, tom. So that's up for debate. If you feel a very slow quarter pulse, might be something more logical than going to an 8 note indication. It's not strange though then that Czerny writes an 8 note as its starting point, but that's another thing. And I was trying this tempo, which Czerny is a little bit slower even than I am, metrically, but not much. And I realized first how this theme started to sing. These big jumps. Tom, tom, ta-da-dum, ta-dum, pa-dum, pa-da. It became so noble, so gentle. And secondly, the 30-second notes, ta-da-dum, were now singing. And I was really saying to myself, how come that you needed Czerny for this? And so that's for me a wonderful moment that I have my channel dedicated from music from Bach to Beethoven. I said it at the beginning, that taking new perspectives, seeing the connections, discover new layers of emotion, because that's where you end. That's the meaning of all the research. Otherwise we could just not do it. And that I have this Czerny source now, and that it inspired me. In fact, I got a lesson from Czerny. And it makes so much sense then. Also, for instance, here, listen, accent on the 4th. So I play a trill, and obviously you need a trill, but if you don't play a trill, it's the same. So you have this ending point, a strong beat on the 4th beat of the bar, which is not unusual, but then having a kind of division in 8 notes. And that's typical. You have other passages as well. Okay, and then I will go to the chat, and then we will close this. So also at the end, it's ending in a very weird way. I mean, with this high positioned chord. And this tempo, I have even the time, of course, slowing down. I'm standing still on the not on the last beat, but on the beat before, which is something you can do in that stylistic. Still time to make a small ornament on the 16th note, and things like that. Open your eyes. You just have to try it sometimes, and so that was a secret behind this fugue. So Anja warns me that there are some.
Yes, it's a question from Carlos about the fugue, and then 4 bars before the end of the fugue, there's a pedal C note.
Yeah.
Do you let finger on the key for the whole time?
Yeah, I think so. I try it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and repeat the note as many times as you want to have it. It's just very normal. I don't think I'm repeating it. Yeah, it's still on. You can even do it here. Here I do it. To have this chord. So yeah, the C is on, and I would recommend doing that. It's certainly written like that.
But my question is saying again, it's because it is impossible to sustain sound for too long time.
Yes. That depends on what instrument you play. Of course, if you play this on an organ, then it's different. On a clavichord, even on a harpsichord, where you would have a much longer C, it will disappear. Yeah, you could say about harmonically, if you no, you will not hear it again. But I would recommend doing it. It is written like that, and you can repeat the C as often as you want. Let's hear it. Yeah, and very subtle. You can repeat it as many times as you want, and that's stylistically perfectly fine. If you should worry about that, but that was done often. So Bach was not writing this C specifically for his instrument. It was though very tailor-made to an instrument, and that's then I'm coming back to the choice of instrument for Bach today, and I agree with that. You play it on any instrument you want. It should serve the music and the music only. But if you do research, practical research, the differences between those instruments were so big. I mean, the difference between a clavichord and a harpsichord, there are two worlds. And my point is sometimes a little bit wrong taken. I never want to say to anyone what to do or what not to do. But if Bach writes this music, it is for a specific instrument. He didn't write it as abstract music. He for sure played it or had in mind a kind of feeling of instrument at least. And since the instruments he had were so different, it's interesting for us to research what instrument typically would he have had in mind. And I believe, of course, that it was closer to the clavichord for solo music, and the harpsichord was the big instrument for the orchestras and for the concerti. Not saying that he didn't play it on that, but that's tying into that. And so this C wouldn't write it for any type of instrument, but that's just one C. So
Kazuhiro asking, will be there a masterclass about the contrapuntus?
Yeah, and not very short. I mean, that's something I will go to do, the art of fugue and things like that. That's 3-4 years. And if you mean the technical thing of the fugue, that's something, and I've been talking about in the CPE Bach series, that we today are, you have people who can perfectly give an analysis of the harmonically and the way this fugue is. And I had to write also in Amsterdam fugues, not like this. I was not very good in it, but it was not emphasized. In Bach's time, of course, if you went to study with Bach, you might have had some keyboard lessons, but this is what you were doing, writing counterpoint and compositions. But specifically on the harmonic contrapunting aspects, that will be not covered in the live stream. There are other people much better than I. But the art of fugue, of course, that's something that will come up on the channel, but not this year and not next year, I believe. It's for a future project. And when the pianoforte is coming, then we will have, of course, Beethoven to do and have to divide our time. But I not forget that. So, I think that's a nice, honest reply to say that I have my limits on that, and I can of course harmonize it and analyze it, but that's not what I do. If I play the music, I play it from the affect and from the rhythmical understanding of it and harmonically understanding. Okay, I think that was it for today. I hear upstairs some noises, so it went perfectly for an hour, and it's the beginning of the holidays, so children need to find their place a little bit, so I'm just going upstairs. I thank you here all for watching this. I hope you find it interesting and that I wasn't rambling too much. If you want to have me address some other things, leave it in the comment boxes on YouTube or in this chat, and I will take it for next time. If you have things that you would like me to address next to the things that we've been talking about in regular videos, don't hesitate to let me know. We have 2 months ahead, and that's a long time to try things out. So I thank you for watching. Have a nice evening or a nice afternoon or a nice day or a nice night, depending on the place on this planet where you live, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye.